Hey everyone, how are you? All right, we're gonna check out this video. Let me bring it over and take a look. I found this one on YouTube. So some things about Kim that I had not known up until this point, so I thought it was interesting. So we'll take a look. Let me hit play on this thing. Here we go.
Do you think Kim Jong Un is evil himself, or is he just part of this system that's set up by his father and grandfather, and he's trapped? Because he's got to know what's going on. He went to school in Switzerland,
Exactly.
so he knows exactly what's.
Right. So people who think that Kim is crazy, doesn't know what's going on, is drinking the Kool-Aid. He went to school in Switzerland. So he's been into Western countries. He knows what the world looks like, unlike his population, whom he keeps completely in the dark. Right? Through his regime, he keeps people blinded to what's going on in the world. But he knows exactly what's going on. So it's one thing to live in North Korea and not know what's going on because the internet traffic is throttled and filtered, and all the communications they get is from the government. But for him, the really sick part is that he knows what the actual world is like. He understands what's going on in the world, but he keeps that information from his people. He keeps them in the dark so that he can stay in power for the remaining time that he has.
He knows what human rights is.
Yeah.
How humans are supposed to be treated.
Right. He knows how they're supposed to be treated, and he treats them like absolute garbage.
But that's why it's pure evil.
Yeah.
Like, he's not brainwashed. He has seen the real world.
Right. Right. He's not brainwashed. His population is brainwashed. Right? And they're kept under threat of torture and everything else on a daily basis. He's not brainwashed, they are.
So you cannot say that like he was brainwashed, he has no choice. Like, no, he has seen the world. The elites of North Korea study, they go shopping in Paris.
They go shopping in Paris. So he gets to sit there on his little throne that he has for now and treat his people like absolute garbage. While he lives in luxury, apparently has access to a refrigerator, while his people starve to death.
Literally. They go ski in Switzerland. I mean, they go to the best places in the world and travel and study. They live like the kings and queens, and Kim Jong-un has his own pleasure squad.
Yeah.
Pleasure Squad. Let's hear about that. This I'd never heard of before. This is a first for me.
What is the pleasure squad? Because I've read about this, and it's a pervy question, so pardon me, but people are curious about this.
So pleasure squad is every year the officials have to meet their quota again. It's everything's quota, the order from the party. Every region has to submit a girl who is a virgin and who is pretty and meet the all government's data. Like the
You hear that? Every region has to submit a virgin who's very pretty and meets the government standard for whatever criteria they give them.
major, height, look, all of it, right? And also family backgrounds. So each year they collect all the girls from entire country, and only the ones
So they're basically grooming sex slaves. That's how you would look at that, right? They get each region, and the government gives them criteria for the virgins, the criteria they want to use, so that they can get what appears to be sex slaves, in the way she's describing it anyway.
enough and the good backgrounds and the virgins going to Pyongyang. From there, they also select giving Kim Jong Un the picture, like who do you want this year? So he
Everything based on looks, based on vanity, right?
picks 25 for a year. Each year he gets only 25. I mean,
Each
only
year.
25 women girlfriends, like that's a lot.
Yeah.
Each year, he gets 25 sex slaves, from the way this sounds. That's the kind of person you're dealing with. So if you think that evil doesn't exist, here it is on display for you. Have a look.
Seems like a lot, especially for a guy who, like Kim Jong Un, not in great shape, and his father was even worse shape. I mean, these are old dudes. They're probably not. Well, I won't go there. But
Yes, and then other girls going to
Yeah, they're not in great shape because they eat and drink whatever they want and live in luxury. Sit in their palace with their grapes, or they're probably not even, they should be eating grapes. They're probably not even eating grapes. Who knows what they're eating? But yeah, they sit up there and eat and drink whatever they want, living in luxury while their people starve to death. And then while they're doing that, he's collecting 25 sex slaves every year from these towns.
other type of officials. Then they divide these girls into different groups. Like satisfaction group is the sex group.
satisfaction group. So I guess they group them, they stratify them. Like once they get all these sex slaves together, then they stratify them into like different groups.
The happiness group is a massage group. Third group is like healthcare. They give him the other health issues. So all these groups being trained for.
Of which I'm sure he has many, because it doesn't look like he takes care of himself or eats well. I doubt he's vegan.
And their prime ages run from 16 or 17 to 20 to 23.
Right. Kids. These are kids. Looks like 23 is about as old as they get, right?
What do the parents think? Do they know that this is what's happening, or are they like, oh, you're going to learn how to dance or something?
It's the most glorious thing that you're going to serve your nation. But not only that, the North Koreans is that when you...
The parents think it's the most... That's how brainwashed they are. They think it's the most glorious thing in their nation to serve their country by being a sex slave to that disgusting human being. Right? That evil, disgusting human being who's going to pay for everything he's done. And his family, her family, is so brainwashed that they think it's their civic duty and it's a great honor to be a sex slave for that thing.
Oh, I mean, you don't get paid, but you get fed.
You don't even get paid. It's such a benefit. It's such a luxurious assignment. You don't even get fed. Like, you get fed. You get food. The people are so oppressed and starving that they're happy to give away their virgin daughters, who are beautiful by the government standards, because at least they'll be able to eat something. They're that hungry and starving, and they have to sit there and watch their leader get bigger and bigger because he's living in the lap of luxury while they starve to death.
If you fed 3 times a day in North Korea, you are the most privileged person in America. I mean, in there. So in America, all these people get fed and talking how hard it is. Like, I don't get it.
Oh,
That's a good point. Like, I go down and feed the homeless here, right? So in the U.S., even the homeless get fed for free. 3 meals a day if you want. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You go downtown, they got multiple homeless shelters. You can bounce around from one to the other. Like, one does breakfast, the other will do lunch, one will do dinner. And they give you a place to sleep. So at least in Jacksonville, if you want, the homeless will get 3 meals a day. They've got medical programs they can sign up for. I know there are issues there because you have to have like ID and some of them don't, and it's difficult to get it. So there's definitely like hoops you have to jump through, and it helps if you have like previous military experience, because some of the places they'll let you stay there if you have that, but if you don't, you have to go other places. But either way, in America, at least in the city I'm in, which I'm sure is similar to other cities, even the homeless can get 3 meals a day, right? And medical care. Some medical care. It's not great, but some medical care. Right? You can get a Bible for free. You can get some documentation, some books. You can get books for free. You can get food for free. You can get some medical care for free. Even though there are definitely hurdles to jump there, and it's not a great existence, but you're alive. You can go and you can get a nice breakfast. You can get some donuts that you don't need. You can get some coffee that you don't need. You can get some bad processed food that you don't need. I mean, but it's calories, right? You're not going to starve to death. Or you can go to North Korea, and you can be so hungry and so oppressed that you'll be happy that your virgin daughter, your daughter, gets taken as a sex slave by some disgusting piece of human being, right? That's how bad it is over there. So when you think you got it bad over here in the U.S., you don't have it that bad. It could be much, much worse.
you mean all of us are fat because we're eating too much and we can't stop?
No, here in America, to be happy takes a lot more.
Oh, sure.
But
Yeah.
in North Korea,
Yeah, because our standards are out of control. In America, you're not happy unless you have like a 4,000 square foot house and a 3-car garage, and you need a golf cart, you need a boat, you need a trailer, you need an ATV, you need a fat 401k that you can retire on, right? You need 3 kids, you need the white picket fence, you need all of it. You need everything. Huge house, multiple cars, you need multiple toys, you need a nice retirement. That's what you chase here in America. A lot of people, right? That's considered making it. That's your goal in life. You collect a bunch of stuff that, guess what? Your body's going to age, your body's going to fall away, you're not going to be able to use all those toys forever, and you're going to lose all of it once you die. So, trust me when I say that the goal of your life is not to acquire things, because you're going to lose all of them. Every single one of them. Once these bodies perish, you'll lose it all. And then you're going to move on. And once you move on, you're going to wish that you'd lived differently. Right? You're going to wish that you lived a life full of compassion. Things that God cares about, right? Compassion and empathy, caring for others, caring for doing God's work, right? Caring for God's creations. God created us, our souls, the planet, the animals, all of it. So when you do God's work, God takes care of you. It's simple. But you can see how things are for other people in other parts of the world that you might not think about on a daily basis. So when we're sitting around complaining sometimes about how bad our life is, just understand that in other places in the world, people have it much, much worse. So hopefully that kind of keeps it in perspective for you. Even the homeless in the United States, the homeless, right? The refugees you all complain about, they come from much worse conditions. Even the homeless here live like kings and queens by North Korean standards.
Being fat is the biggest privilege you can get in your life. So when these girls go there, they're gonna be fat. So their parents are so happy.
And that's why you want people oppressed, right? That's why you would want people starving to death. That way, like, the nicest thing you can give them is a sandwich or some food or some rice, right? They're so oppressed that they will love you just for giving them things that every human should have access to. Every human should have access to healthcare, to food, to water, to love, to shelter, things like that. And when you oppress people, you can use the most basic items as money, as currency, right? You can use food as currency because you starve them to death.
You said fat. My
Oh, no, being
fed. Okay.
Yeah,
Fed.
Hence my
food.
because it must be weird coming from. You're in the United States. You look around. You're in the Midwest. You're in Chicago. There's a lot of fat people around, and I can't lose weight. I can't stop eating. I mean,
A lot of that is because we eat too much. I know because I put on a few pounds recently, and it's not, amazing how it happened. It makes sense. I've eaten more calories than I burn off, and I know that it's more complicated than that. But for a lot of people, it's not. It's just how much you eat. So it's like calories in and then calories burn, and either has a surplus or a deficit. You have a surplus, it's going to get stored in your body. There you go. Food choices absolutely matter, but to look at it very simplistically, for a lot of people, it's just how much we're putting in our mouth.
it's got to be kind of that must have been jarring to see when you arrived here.
I did have some like a sympathetic issue in the beginning coming to America, right? Like I just never knew having too much could be a problem.
So she's a defector.
Right? Like I just never knew even the word is like diet. In North Korea, the most desired man is Kim Jong-un, like big belly and bald hair. That means if you are bored, you're eating fat food or something.
Okay.
Wow. So that's how oppressed they are. He is like, to an American, like a beach hunk. You go out and you want to see someone on the beach, like the guy they're looking for is like super ripped with muscles, right? Just walking around stacked up, lots of muscles, right? So that's what you look for in America anyway, right? You want a rich person, tons of muscles, right? Nice long hair. But in North Korea, oddly enough, their ideal man looks like Kim. So you've got someone who knows where the refrigerator is, right? A little rotund. His hair is falling out. They associate that with eating fatty food. I don't know if that's true, but they associate it with it. I guess they don't take hereditary into account. But so that's kind of like their poster boy. And I think they actually have his poster up in their house. It's probably a requirement, right? They treat that piece of garbage like he's God, right? That's how he portrays himself to the people, through oppression and through violence and fear. That's how he keeps his people in check. He just starves them to death, and he makes them think he's God, which he's not God. That's 100% true, and he's in for a rough time because of how he's treated God's creations. But
If you have a big belly, you have a
He'll figure that out.
You're very powerful. Because most of the people are always
right, you're considered powerful because you're overweight because you have access to food.
starving. And in America now, they're talking about in South Korea to obsess with diet. And what the heck is diet, right? And here also people say like food is a problem. There's too much. The obesity is killing us. I'm like,
It is.
just don't eat. Nobody forcing me to eat here.
I know, but the food choices we have and the marketing and everything, and just you get used to it and your stomach's used to a certain amount of food, that's a thing here, right? In America, at least where I am, if you go to a restaurant and you pay like $15 or $20 for a meal, you expect to go home with another meal. Like you want a portion so big that when you go home, you get to take a whole nother portion home to eat. And if you don't get that, a lot of people feel like, they've been gypped, right? Like I went in there and I paid $20 for this meal. I don't even have another meal to take home. And then you're going to take home that other meal in some styrofoam or some plastic, something that'll destroy the environment and be here much longer than you are, right? So your ancestors will be dealing with your trash. But that's what we expect here. That's why the restaurant industry is actually terrible. Because you go in there and you get food that's designed to taste good. It's not designed to be good for you. The majority of it is designed just to taste good. It's got tons of calories, saturated fats, cholesterol, salt, whatever. It's got all sugar, especially sugar. So you go out to a restaurant, you eat a whole bunch of food that's terrible for you, right? Put that in your body. You're probably drinking alcohol while you're doing it, getting all that sugar in you, right? You do all that. Maybe you smoke a cigarette after you're done, right? Want to enjoy the meal. Then you get all those leftovers, and that to-go styrofoam or plastic is going to destroy the environment, and you take that home so you can eat that. But that's the expectations of at least someone where I am, right? I'm Jacksonville, Florida, United States. So where I am, that's kind of the expectation for a lot of folks. Over in North Korea, you're happy just to be able to not die from starvation. That's how different it can be depending on where you are in the world. Where you're born will determine, the quality of life for a lot of folks. So it's very interesting, just to keep things in perspective when we're sitting around complaining about things. Just understand that other people in this world have it very differently than you do.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's interesting. It's all about perspective.
So this squad of girls, they're young, and then they end up doing this until they're of marriage age or something, and then they just go back home.
No, because they have seen too much. So the regime, they are like, when they take your daughter, it's like you gave it to your nation. So don't ever look them back.
Wow. So they steal your daughters. By government standards, your beautiful daughters, your virgins. They steal your daughter that's starving, right? And they promise her the luxurious items of food, so she won't die of starvation. That's basically the best she'll get. And she gets to serve her country by, I'll be nice, associating with that human piece of scum that runs the country. And that's considered like, that's serving your nation. So that's a glorious job to have. And then they use you, your daughter, as a short-term lease, right? So they use and abuse her for a few years. Only while she's young, right? Because, Kim's got to cycle in 25 more the next year. So they can't keep them around long-term, right? So they use and abuse them for a few years. And then, from the way she's saying, is your government property. You have been given to the nation. So I'm sure she'll explain here in a second what happens to them, but it doesn't sound like they ever get to go back home.
These girls don't ever reach out to their parents ever again in their lifetime. So when you take these girls and then when they...
For their lifetime. So basically when your daughters are taken as sex slaves over in North Korea, they're essentially dead to you because you'll never see them again. That's the kind of person we're dealing with. That's the kind of scum that is allowed to exist on this planet currently. And if you want to know who someone is, if you really want to know who someone is, you don't need to ask that many questions. All you need to know is who they associate with and who they're friends with, right? Who are you business partners with? Who do you associate with? Because I cannot know anything about you, and I can just look at who you associate with and who your friends are, and I can pretty much dial in who you are without ever asking you a question.
When we say graduate, then they match them with the guards who guard Kim Jong-un, guard have elite.
So they divvy them out. They divvy them out as like war spoils to the guards. So they help keep him in his power currently. So they help keep him in power. So he gets to throw away these ex-virgins, these sex slaves that were given to him, right? Doing their civic duty so that they won't starve to death. And then he just trades them out like Pokemon cards with his guards and other people that he's close to.
God was a seal lot. So they are forever sealed from the public. And
And they've seen too much because they hang out with these people while they're sitting around getting drunk with loose lips. So they've probably seen too much, heard too much, so they can never be reintegrated in with normal society. It's probably crazy because you figure these sex slaves, they're probably sitting there watching him watch the news. So he's probably watching news from around the world that they don't have access to. So imagine the culture shock. They're starving to death, right? They get taken up by the government, which is glorious to their parents because they don't know any better. And then they get to sit around and watch these disgusting people probably sit around and smoke cigars, drink liquor, get drunk, violate them in who knows how many ways. And then they're probably also watching TV. So you can just imagine Kim sitting there with, I don't know, some alcohol, some cigarettes. He's chain smoking. Keep that up, by the way, Kim. Keep that up, by the way. I don't know if you know, but smoking causes cancer. So keep smoking. So they're there smoking. They're drinking their liquor probably, doing whatever vile things they can to people behind closed doors. And they're probably watching like news, like world news. And these sex slaves are seeing this for the first time. You know, probably don't understand what they're saying, but can you imagine that? They get thrust into this world where they actually get to see what's going on in the world. Not what their perspective has been kind of like locked into. They've been pigeonholed into seeing the world like this. They can't actually see the world as it is. It's an awful existence.
they marry. The regime make them marry each other.
What a miserable existence.
Yeah, you don't even
Yeah.
choose your partner. Just give you the like.
Well, you're a sex slave. They're not going to let you choose anything. You're just property to them, right? You met the government criteria for a virgin that they thought would be a worthy sex slave. And then they trade you around like Pokemon cards. These are the types of people you're dealing with. So please don't ever sit around and complain about your problems, or at least keep them in perspective, right? While you're complaining, about whatever it is you're complaining about, there are people starving to death that would love to get picked up as a sex slave by Kim and be used and abused by that human piece of excrement.
chosen, and then you get grouped, then marry, and then forever you cannot talk about what you have seen and did.
Yeah, and you're never gonna. I mean, you can never. So you never see your family again.
Never. You don't even hear back from them ever again.
Wow, you never even hear from them again. It's basically like your daughter is dying. And it might be better for those parents, if you think about it, that they think that their daughter died. Because knowing what their daughter is going to have to go through is probably a lot worse than just thinking they died. If you have to imagine what that vile person would do to a very young girl, an attractive girl, where he gets to sit up there like Jabba the Hutt, right, and pretend to be Jesus.
I've heard that when people escape, their extended family. I mean, we talked about the 3 generations, 8 generations. So if someone escapes or is a defector, what happens to their family in North Korea?
Depending on the status of your family. So also the punishment was a lot lower during the Kim Jong-il.
Okay. And then if you do defect, if somehow you're able to get out of that country, they go after your family. Probably friends too. So it's like you get out, and because you got out, they torture your family and throw them into a prison camp. And I've done a video on that, so you can go back and look at that. But yeah, their prison camps are horrific. He's awful. This house is unclean. Absolutely unclean. Not everybody. There are a lot of problems to fix. But then you've got these outliers that have to be dealt with expeditiously.
I'm the second Kim. I told Kim Jong-il didn't really care in the beginning. That people escaped in the 90s. They're like, oh, if they don't like it, just go, let them go. Why do we bother, right? And then so
That would be the only compassionate thing you could do, right? If somebody wants to leave that hellhole, at least let them go. And don't torture their family and friends that are left behind.
back then, like my family was also lower class, and nobody. I mean, they got that's like
Class
interrelated.
system. Right? Anytime you hear a class system, it's incorrect. God doesn't have classes. He has people that are holy, right? And he has people that are sinful. And you're holy sinful, or you're holy holy, and most people are on that spectrum somewhere, right? Somewhere on the spectrum. But there's no classifications. God doesn't care about money. Look around, right? This might not seem like a great existence to a lot of people in America. They're probably like, this guy is in his back bedroom of his mom's house. He burned his 401k to sit around and make like YouTube videos where he makes no money because he has no subscribers, right? He's got nothing. His retirement shot. Who knows what's going to happen? I might end up in one of these homeless shelters. At least I'll know the people down there, so that's good. But God doesn't care about money. And if that isn't obvious by now, I don't know what to tell you. But also, you have to keep things in perspective. To a North Korean, I'm like a king. I've got food in the fridge. I can walk up there right now and get some fruits and vegetables and eat them. I can get my grapes and sit down here and eat them if I want to, right? So it's all about perspective. That's why your journey is so important, because there are things that you'll never learn without having had perspective to those issues. So by American standards, I'm a bum. I'm a scrub, right? No job, no retirement, no medical insurance. I'm basically like a homeless person that happens to have a place to stay because of his mom. But there's a reason that this story is unfolding the way it is. It's to show you that God doesn't care about money. Like, what you're chasing isn't what God cares about. If you're running around, you're trying to get that 5,000 square foot home, that 3-car garage, you want all the toys. You want the pool. You want the pool table, right? You want the three-point whatever kids. You want the white picket fence. You want the 401k. You want the golf carts. You want the boats. You want the trailers. You want the ATVs. You want the motorcycles. You want all of it, right? That's what it is in America. You chase. You want all of it. You're chasing things that are not going to do anything for you in an eternal sense. You're chasing things that don't matter to God. You're wasting your time. You're chasing pleasures instead of doing God's work. And if you're doing God's work, what you're doing is you're trying to help God. You're God's hands and feet. So you're trying to help God's creations, right? The planet, the universe, everything, us, our bodies, our souls, the animals, the whole natural environment that we live in, all of it, right? So you can either be for divine service, right? You're still allowed to have fun, you're allowed to have a good time, but your main focus is you're here to be God's hands and feet. Or you can be selfish and go your own way, and you can chase things your whole life and not help people and not help God's creations. But guess what? Your body's going to get old and you're going to die, right? And then you're going to get to look back on your life and see everything that you've done and the reality of all those choices you made. Things you could have done, things you didn't do, things you did do, how they impacted others. You'll get to see it all in a way that you can't imagine. And everything will come into perspective, and it will be an awestruck moment for you, and it will be extremely humbling. So protect yourself. Live to serve others in whatever way that is for you, right? It can be through sweat, it can be through knowledge, it can be through money, potentially, but like I said, God doesn't care about money, right? So hopefully that's clear by now.
Tortured a little bit in the beginning, but they all got set free. A lot of North Korean defectors, like now in America, very low number, over only 200 North Koreans made it to America during the last almost 80 years.
That can't be right.
Over only 200 North Koreans made it to America during the last almost 80 years.
How is that even correct? 200 North Koreans made it to America in the last 80 years? How's that even possible?
Really?
Yeah.
200.
207 or something like that.
207.
And somehow America doesn't want a lot of North Koreans to come either. So.
Oh, really? I didn't
yeah,
know that.
Yeah.
America doesn't want North Koreans to come? I don't know what that means.
Don't like the North Korean refugees that much. So they.
I'm not sure what they mean by that.
I had to come here as a South Korean
Oh, I
and
see.
get all the working visa. Like exactly what South is impossible to come to America if you're South Korean. So
I think she means North Korean there. So essentially, I guess she immigrated here as a refugee, she labeled herself as a South Korean because it was going to be almost impossible to get in as a North Korean. So I'm not sure what she means by that. I'll take her word for it. She came in from North Korea, I didn't. So she's got the experience in this area, I don't. But yeah, that'd be interesting to look into to see why the U.S. would not want North Korean refugees. If they can even get out. I mean, it doesn't appear that they can get out, or it's very difficult.
North Koreans usually go to South Korea. So now there are
Makes more
33,000
sense.
North Koreans made it to South Korea during the last like 80 years.
Did you say 33,000?
You go to South Korea. So now there are 33,000 North Koreans made it to
33,000.
South Korea during the
That's good. So 33,000 North Koreans that go to South Korea. So as far as figuring out what actually happens in the North Korea and kind of weeding through any potential lies that might be in there, you got 33,000 people that have defected from North Korea to South Korea. You could go talk to them and have 33,000 different perspectives on what's going on there, and then align which ones, line up, which stories all kind of tie in together. So they know exactly what's going on in North Korea. You got 33,000 people you can talk to, or at least at the time. So it's not a mystery what's going on there. It is to the people in North Korea because they're kept inside the little hermit's kingdom and they only get to see like this version of the world. They don't get to see the entire world. Just the version that Kim gives them.
last like 80 years. And so most of them are not high class. But the top class when
High
they do the
class.
family, like 3 to 8 generations, that does get like punished.
So is this a complex?
Does get like punished. And so most of them are not high class. But the top class when they do the family, like 3 to 8 generations, that does get like punished.
I think she said three generations of the high class. So if they actually care about you, if you're high class, so you have access to food in North Korea. If you're high class, they're going to go back and harm 3 of your generations if you defect. This is ridiculous.
So is this a complex issue for you? Like, do you know what happened to your family back in North Korea?
Yeah, so when I spoke out against the regime in 2014, that's when they used all my families, including my neighbors, to denounce me and his videos on the YouTube.
So the government got her family and her neighbors to denounce her and probably lie about her, I would guess, because she left. So if you even wanted to escape North Korea, you have to basically assume that they're going to harm, possibly torture, and slander you after you leave. So, when you leave, when you escape, you're going to be harming your family and your friends. Imagine the mental toll that puts on you. You're in this country and somehow you realize that you're in this hermit kingdom, you're living in this fake world, right? With this Jabba the Hutt fella who's pretending to be Christ, right? He thinks he's God over North Korea, and as far as they're concerned, they probably only see North Korea. They don't see the rest of the world. It's so bad, and you figure it out. So you go through whatever process you need to go through to get out so you don't starve to death. And then when you do, in the back of your mind, you have to know they're going to torture, maybe kill your family, your friends, your relatives. You don't know what they're going to do. Can you imagine the mental stress that puts on someone? And all you're trying to do is escape an evil person. An evil dictator in this world. Truly evil. And you got that on your mind. You're escaping to save yourself, but at the same time you're condemning people behind you. I couldn't imagine being put in that position. It's horrific.
And then they got all disappeared. Because I still have those
Disappeared.
people in the network that I used to get information out.
Mm-hmm.
They all got vanished.
So
Vanished, which probably means what? A prison camp? Which I did a video on that. Horrific. The things that this guy done. And Kim, just so you know, since you're in charge and you're ordering all this, all of those sins are going to be repaid on you. So enjoy the time that you have left.
those people are probably dead then.
Most likely, yeah.
That has to be a complex issue for you.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing, like when I was speaking, I knew I was risking my life. But I really didn't think that the regime was going to be threatened by 13 years old who escaped North Korea.
She was 13 when she escaped. Yeah, so she probably couldn't comprehend everything that would have happened when she left. And they went after her like that, 13 years old, and they still went after her family and friends. And your neighbors, they might not have even known what was going on, that you were going to defect. Insane. But like I said, he doesn't care. He doesn't value human life. How can you value human life and then go steal someone's young daughter, 16 I think was the youngest? Go steal someone's 16-year-old young daughter as a sex slave. Use and abuse her for whatever that pig would use and abuse. Oh, I don't even want to say that. Pigs are actually okay. I won't insult the pigs. But use and abuse a 16-year-old child like that, and then pass them around like sex slaves, like they're trading cards.
Who does not even have a military like secret. All I was saying is what you...
And then they never get to see their family again. They're essentially dead to their family, which would probably be better than knowing what they're actually used for. So this year, if this is still going on, and I think this is a recent show, I just found it. So if this is still going on, there'll be 25 more girls being taken by Kim to be used and abused this year. And then next year, there'll be 25 more. And then next year, there'll be 25 more. And that's on top of all the people he's starving to death, keeping oppressed, keeping in a dark hole so they can't see the world for what it actually is. That's what's going on.
See on the Google satellite pictures with concentration camps and starvation deaths were documented by the UN. So I thought, like, what am I revealing that is new? I did not know. But because you do not obey, that's the treason, right? You escaped.
Do you feel a sense of duty to these people to spread the message far and wide, because they essentially have made a sacrifice,
of course,
unwilling sacrifice?
I mean, that's the thing. Freedom is not free. I paid an immense price to have this voice, and I don't know when I'm gonna get killed. But the thing is, there are so many people dying to be free, and freedom is not free. I think that we see that, like, it's impossible. It's so hard
That's
to
true.
be free from the dictator.
Do you think Kim?
All right. So sorry it wasn't a feel-good topic today, but it had to be said. You see videos like this, and you have to say something. Otherwise, a lot of people may not know this. Like, I didn't know this about the 25 girls that he takes up every year as sex slaves. Like, I didn't know that. So I figured I would do a video about it. It's interesting, but he's a vile, disgusting human being. The worst, right? And you can always tell who people are by the company they keep. You can tell. You don't even need to talk to people. You can look at them, and if you see the people they associate with, their friends, their family, and things like that, normally you can pretty much tell. Not an exact science. God knows everything, so God's got it under control. But yeah, this world is a mess because people like this are in power. So if you get a chance, definitely go check out her channel, Yeonmi Park. I guess she's a defector from North Korea, so she has hands-on experience. She can tell you what actually happened there. It's horrific. He's over there starving people to death, taking sex slaves, threatening the world with nuclear weapons. These are the kind of people that, up until now, have been allowed to have free reign in this world and do pretty much whatever they wanted. So, thankfully, we'll get all this worked out. We're on God's team, so how is it not going to work out? But it may take a little time. We'll get it done. But that's it. Just remember, God loves you. He wants to provide guidance to help you to make great decisions so that you can have control over your eternal destiny. So please listen. And we'll get this place cleaned. The house will be cleaned. Have a great day.